If your pool keeps turning green no matter what you do, I want you to hear this. It is not your fault, and you are not doing something wrong. You're just missing one piece of information that the pool supply industry would rather you never find out. Because once you know it, you'll never overpay for pool chemicals again, and your algae problem, it goes away and stays away. I'm going to show you exactly what's happening, what to do about it, and how to keep it from ever coming back. Stick around until the end, because I've got a bonus tip that makes this whole thing practically foolproof. Here's the thing about pool algae that nobody actually explains to you. Most people think algae is a chlorine problem. They see the water going green, they dump in more chlorine, it clears up for a week or two, then it's back. So they buy more chlorine, more shock, more algaecide. And the cycle just keeps going, month after month, season after season, with you spending money every single time. What's actually happening is this. Your chlorine isn't failing because you don't have enough of it. It's failing because the water chemistry underneath it is broken. Specifically, something called total alkalinity. When your alkalinity drops out of range, your chlorine can't do its job. It gets neutralized too quickly, it breaks down faster in sunlight, and it essentially evaporates before it can kill anything. So the algae blooms, you treat it, it comes back, and you treat it again. Forever. Fix the alkalinity, and your chlorine starts working the way it's supposed to. The algae has no opening. And the fix? It's been sitting in your kitchen this whole time. Baking soda. Plain, ordinary baking soda, also known as sodium bicarbonate. The same thing you use for baking, for cleaning, for pulling odors out of your refrigerator. It is the exact same compound that pool supply companies package in a bright blue tub. Slap a label that says alkalinity increaser or alkalinity up on the front, and charge you $3 to $5 per pound. And here's what makes that truly staggering. You can buy the exact same chemical, identical molecule, identical purity, identical results at your grocery store for around $1 per pound, or in bulk bags for even less. There is no difference. None whatsoever. The pool store version isn't stronger. It isn't processed differently. It isn't specially formulated for pools. It is baking soda. It has always been baking soda. If you flip over that fancy blue tub and read the active ingredient on the back, it says sodium bicarbonate every time. Pool owners on forums have found they can get 50 pounds of sodium bicarbonate for roughly the same price as 10 pounds from a major pool supply chain. Same ingredient. 5 times less product for the same money. The pool industry is banking on you never checking the label. Now you know. Before I walk you through exactly how to use it, let me explain why this actually works, because this is the part that matters most. Baking soda doesn't directly attack algae the way an algaecide does. What it does is something more powerful. It fixes the conditions that allow algae to take over in the first place. Once those conditions are fixed, your existing chlorine does the killing, and it does it consistently, all the time, without you having to constantly top it up. You stop fighting algae and start preventing it. That is a completely different approach, and a much better one. Now, before we continue, if you're tired of dumping money at the pool store and still fighting cloudy water, I wrote a 39-page playbook called Jimmy's Pool Playbook, From Cloudy to Crystal Clear. It covers the grocery store method that replaces expensive pool chemicals with bleach, baking soda, and borax, the full slam process for green pools, a printable weekly routine, and the only 5 numbers you actually need to test for. I went from spending $600 a season to under $150, and my water has never looked better. My daughter helped me put it online, so the link below this video should work. Alright, let's keep going. Here's the chemistry, and I'll keep it simple. Your pool water has 2 numbers that need to stay in range. The first is pH, how acidic or alkaline the water is. The second is total alkalinity, how well your water resists sudden changes in pH. Think of total alkalinity like shock absorbers. Without them, every bump, rain, landing in the pool, a crowd of swimmers, adding any chemical at all, sends your pH swinging wildly. And when pH swings, especially when it drops low, two things happen. First, your chlorine loses effectiveness dramatically. At a pH below 7.0, your chlorine is barely working at all. Second, your water becomes corrosive. We're talking etching on your pool walls and floor, pitting in the plaster, staining on the tiles, and corrosion eating through your metal ladders, railings, light fixtures, pump internals, and heat exchanger. Low alkalinity isn't just an algae problem. Left unchecked, it's a several $1,000 equipment and resurfacing problem. The ideal total alkalinity for a residential pool is between 80 and 120 parts per million. When it drops below that, everything else falls apart with it. Raise it back into range, and your entire pool chemistry stabilizes. Chlorine works efficiently. pH holds steady. Algae never gets the foothold it needs. That's the whole game. So let me walk you through exactly how to do this. It is genuinely simpler than anything a pool store has ever told you. Step 1. Test your water before you do anything. You need to know where your alkalinity actually sits right now. Do not skip this step and just start dumping baking soda in. You need a number. Basic test strips work fine, the kind you dip in the water for a few seconds and read against a color chart. Just make sure whatever test kit you buy measures total alkalinity specifically, not just pH. They're cheap, they're available at any hardware store or online, and they will tell you everything you need to know. If you want more precision, a liquid drop test kit is a step up and still very affordable. Either way, get a number before you do anything else. Step 2. Do the math on how much you need. The standard formula is 1.5 pounds of baking soda per 10,000 gallons of pool water to raise total alkalinity by approximately 10 parts per million. So if your pool holds 20,000 gallons and your alkalinity reads 60 parts per million and you want to hit 100 parts per million, you need to raise it by 40 parts per million. That works out to roughly 12 pounds of baking soda total. If you don't know your pool's volume, here's how to figure it out quickly. For a rectangular pool, multiply length times width times average depth times 7.5. That gives you gallons. For a round pool, it's diameter times average depth times 5.9. For a kidney or freeform shape, most pool builders can give you the volume, or you can find it in the original paperwork. It doesn't have to be exact. Close enough is fine for this. Step 3. Add it in stages, not all at once. This is where most people go wrong. They calculate the full amount needed, dump it all in at the same time, and then wonder why the water went cloudy. The right approach is to add no more than 1.5 pounds per 10,000 gallons in a single treatment. If you need to raise your alkalinity by 40 ppm, you spread that across multiple doses over multiple days. Add the first round, let the pump run, retest, then decide if you need more. Going slowly prevents you from overshooting into the high range, which creates its own problems: cloudy water, scaling on your surfaces, and clogged filters. More is not better here. Measured and patient is better. Step 4. Apply it the right way. Turn your pump on so the water is actively circulating before you add anything. Then take your baking soda and broadcast it in wide arcs across the surface of the pool, starting at the deep end and working around the perimeter. Don't dump the whole amount in one spot, and don't pour it directly into the skimmer. That can cause localized overconcentration and potential damage to your filtration system. Spreading it evenly across the surface lets it dissolve gradually and distribute throughout the water. Wear goggles and gloves, not because baking soda is dangerous, but because you're working around pool water, and any chemical handling deserves basic respect. Step 5. Retest after 6 to 24 hours. Come back, test again, and see where you landed. If you're still below 80 ppm, mix up another measured dose and repeat the process. If you're in the 80 to 120 ppm range, you're done. Your alkalinity is balanced. Your chlorine now has the stable, consistent environment it needs to work the way it was designed to. Let me cover some common problems you might run into. What if my pool is already green? Baking soda alone will not clear an active algae bloom. If you've already got green water, dull, murky, with slimy walls and a slippery floor, you need to shock the pool first. That means raising your chlorine to between 10 and 20 times the normal level to overwhelm and wipe out the existing algae colony. Make sure your pH is between 7.2 and 7.4 before you shock, because that's where chlorine is most effective. Let the pump run, brush the walls and floor to break up algae clinging to surfaces, and run your filter continuously until the water clears. That can take anywhere from 24 to 72 hours, depending on how bad the bloom is. Once the water is clearing, that's when you come in with a baking soda to balance alkalinity and make sure it never comes back. What if my alkalinity is already in range, but I'm still getting algae? Check your pH next. If your pH is sitting above 7.8, chlorine effectiveness drops sharply, even when alkalinity looks fine on paper. The sweet spot for pH is between 7.4 and 7.6. Baking soda does nudge pH upward slightly when you add it, so monitor both numbers together and adjust as needed. If your pH needs to come down, you'd use a pH decreaser, but don't conflate the two. Get alkalinity right first, then fine-tune pH. What if I add too much? You'll know because the water will turn cloudy or milky. High alkalinity, above 120 ppm, causes calcium and minerals to come out of solution and float freely in the water. It can also cause white scaling deposits to form on your pool walls and clog your equipment over time. If you've overshot, you'll need to bring it back down using muriatic acid or a pool-grade pH decreaser. This is exactly why you add in stages and retest. A patient approach costs you an extra day. Overshooting costs you a lot more to fix. What about saltwater pools? The same principle applies, but saltwater pools typically run best toward the lower end of the range, closer to 70 to 80 parts per million rather than the upper end. Same baking soda, just a slightly lower target. Everything else about the process is identical. What if it rains heavily? Rainwater is naturally acidic, and a significant rainfall can drop your alkalinity noticeably, especially in larger storms. This is one of the most common reasons pool chemistry drifts unexpectedly. After any heavy rain, test your water. Don't wait for the next scheduled testing day. That's often how algae sneaks in. A big storm drops the alkalinity, nobody catches it for 2 weeks, and suddenly the pool is green. Here's the bonus tip I promised you. Everything we've covered so far is how you fix the problem. This is how you make sure the problem never comes back. Test your water at least once a week during swimming season. That's the whole tip. It sounds almost too simple, but here's what it means in practice. You will never be surprised by green water again. The reason algae keeps returning for most pool owners isn't that their treatment failed. It's that the water gradually drifted out of range over several weeks. Alkalinity crept down after some rain, pH shifted after a busy weekend of swimming, and nobody caught it until there was already a bloom forming. When you test weekly, you catch that drift when it's a minor correction, a pound or two of baking soda, rather than a full-blown crisis that takes days to resolve. You don't need a pool service visit every week. You don't need expensive monthly chemical programs. You need a $5 test kit, a bag of baking soda from the grocery store or warehouse club, and 15 minutes once a week to stay ahead of it. That's all. Prevention is always cheaper and easier than treatment, and weekly testing is the only thing standing between you and a consistently clear pool. So to recap, the forbidden ingredient is baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, the same compound pool stores rebrand as alkalinity increase and charge you 3 to 5 times the price for. It works by stabilizing your total alkalinity, which keeps your pH steady, which lets your chlorine do its job effectively, which prevents algae from ever gaining the foothold it needs to bloom. Keep your alkalinity between 80 and 120 ppm. Add baking soda in measured stages whenever it drops, and test weekly to stay ahead of drift. That's a clear pool, maintained cheaply, without the guesswork. If this helped you finally understand what's been going wrong, drop a comment. I genuinely read every one. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next video. I'll see you there.